Coach, rushing attempts were a little bit down this week compared to the previous weeks. Was it just kind of what they were giving you, or there's just another thought process behind that? They were just a little bit diminished this week.
Yeah, well, we didn't move the ball very good this week, and I don't think it had much to do with rushing attempts. Plays were down this week, so I think that was a bigger problem because we didn't move the ball effectively.
What's your impression of Bryce Young and this Alabama offense overall that you face next week?
I think they're good. They have quality players, and they're explosive. Several guys are pretty explosive. But I think he's pretty good. He can help himself with his feet,
Coach, I know you were concerned about the energy at practice last week. I know you just had one day to judge it by, but how did they come back yesterday?
I thought we were fine yesterday, I thought we were fine yesterday.
Mike, you guys had 6 false starts and 5 defensive holdings in that game against Kentucky. I guess what did you maybe see, I guess, more specifically with the holding calls that maybe you guys could address and clean up a bit at practice this week?
Well, I saw a little of all the above. I saw technique, that we need to be better at. I saw dumb, and then I saw some that were kind of curious calls, so.
Mike, you took responsibility real quickly for the loss after LSU, after Kentucky. When you talk about practices, and 2 of them, should player leadership have factored into helping turn that around last week?
Well, you constantly try to build that, try to work that, try to elevate that, and so some of it happens naturally, but you got to do whatever you can to elevate it. I mean, we got a couple pretty strong leaders, Will and Buki, but I think that we need more guys behind them too. So.
Were you able to catch any of that Alabama-Tennessee game, or how much of it have you been able to kind of rewatch since? And what are your impressions of maybe some things that Alabama struggled with entering, this game, things that they're going to try to clean up?
Well, we watched the coach's film. I think that I thought that Tennessee played really fast. I thought that the quarterback and the receiver were really on the same page, and had some pretty good timing to when they got some of their explosive plays in there. It was a really tight back and forth game.
Coach, we hear all the time about how difficult it is to play on the SEC road. What makes it so difficult to play a road game in the Southeastern Conference?
I think the biggest thing is the change of routine. I think that, I think it's, in a lot of cases, it's no harder than you make it, but there is a change of routine. I mean, to being on the road and at home, and then I think some football's kind of a creature of routine, and I think that sometimes that, until you get used to it or focus through it, I think that can have an impact.
After the Kentucky game, you said that practice didn't look the same that week as it did the 2 weeks before. What adjustments have you made to make sure that practice looks better going into this week?
Well, we haven't practiced yet, so we'll. What do the politicians say? They circle back all the time, don't they? Well, I'll circle back. There's not a chance in hell I'm circling back, but if you happen to find me and ask again, I'll probably give you a pretty good answer.
Playing the University of Alabama, obviously one of the top recruiters in the country. How do you begin to kind of narrow the gap there between maybe the upper echelon teams in the West and Mississippi State on the recruiting trail?
Well, the biggest thing, you just kind of focus on what you've got and what resources you have, and just try to elevate them as much as you can. And, and I think we're making progress. You try to make it as fast as you can. In the last 2 years, it's become a more volatile kind of recruiting situation, and the dust hasn't settled on it. So, you try to guide through that,
Mike, there's obviously a lot of talk about, how good Alabama under Nick Saban has been, coming off losses. Obviously, earlier this year, you guys were pretty good when you came off that LSU loss. I guess what goes into maybe establishing that mindset of not letting one loss kind of trickle down into 2 or 3 in a row there?
just sticking together and working hard. And if everybody's really committed to what they're doing, I mean, they just get right back at it and, just try to work through it. But by the same token, you have to commit to it too,
You mentioned watching some of the Alabama-Tennessee film. I know Josh Heupel played quarterback under you at Oklahoma. I don't know how much of that you've watched, but how much does his offense resemble yours, and what kind of concepts did you take it from that?
He's definitely got some things that look familiar, There's some things that look familiar, and I can think of a play in particular, that we ran back in the day, and that we ran back in the day, he's got his quarterback running that play better than he ran it, so yeah.
Kind of to follow up on that, I mean, guys like Josh and Sonny Dykes obviously having a lot of success at TCU. What's it like for you, kind of, having the experience that you have watching, the guys you've coached or have played for you or coached with you, kind of, start this coaching tree that you have?
It's tough while you're coaching because you're busy tending to your own team, and you just kind of hear about it secondhand or, quickly see a score or something. I mean, I'm happy for them and all that as far as, to really enjoy it, recollect, exchange ideas, stuff like that. I mean, heck, you kind of got to be out of it to do that. Otherwise, you're too busy with what you're doing yourself,
I know Alabama has a Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback, but it looks like that number one running back looks like he makes their offense go. What are your impressions of him and what he's done?
No, I think he's really good. I think, that's the thing. That's the thing. If you can't, they keep you kind of thinned out from, because you're trying to tend to both of them, and then, as they do that, then, you can't just focus on one thing, and then you're vulnerable to both a little bit,
I know some coaches might mention a losing streak that their school might have against an opponent as motivation. Is that something you will talk about this week?
No. I mean, all that counts is what you do today and then what you do next, I mean, you don't have any control over that. That doesn't affect anything.
You had some, I think it was Jet last year who said that, he felt like as Alabama kind of built that lead, the helmet sticker of seeing Alabama on the other side maybe, impose some will on your guys. I guess, do you kind of have the hope that, with some more experienced guys, they're not really fazed by, it being Alabama on the other side?
If they're sitting there looking at that and paying attention to that, they're looking at the wrong thing. They need to be looking at themselves and how well they're playing, competing with themselves and playing the best that they could play. I mean, they can control the guy in their uniform. They can't control the guy in the other uniform. They got to focus on themselves.